Hello everyone, this is Rexer of the YouTube channel NotQuiteThereGaming, and today I have for you another Warframe video. This time it's gonna be a Nekros build. I've been pretty busy lately, but I hope to be making some more videos soon, as I've gotten a lot of stuff done that's not related to YouTube, so I can focus a bit more on this stuff. Also, before we get started, I wanna say that this affinity booster is part of the recent event that just went on, and I'm actually rather proud to have never ever used an affinity booster, and neither have I bought reactors, catalysts, or formas from the store. I just buy skins. So everything I consider that I've earned through normal progression. Okay, well, this is a Nekros build, so let's take a look at Nekros. Nekros he was a Warframe that I really was looking forward to, because I'm a fan of necromancy in fantasy settings and fantasy games. Sadly, what turned out was not exactly what I was hoping for. He is, at first glance, a very conflicted Warframe because of the way his powers work and the way his powers need to be boosted. Also, his stats are subpar in pretty much every respect. Even so, with a little bit of work and a lot of love, you can make Nekros into a Warframe that isn't top tier, as some people might want to have you believe, but is a Warframe that is fun to play, and it has its uses. So it's definitely not a throwaway, as it might seem to some people, and it's definitely not top tier, but it's somewhere in between, and I think it's a happy in between. So let's get into the build itself. Obviously, a reactor. 3 formas. Nekros starts with a defensive polarity and an attack polarity. He doesn't have an aura polarity, so I gave him a tactical aura polarity because I'm partial to those. Recent changes have boosted some of the other auras, so that Energy Siphon is not such a clear-cut choice anymore. But for a Warframe that really needs energy like Nekros does, Energy Siphon is still the go-to choice. Also, I gave him a defensive polarity because he is really in need of extra survivability, and another tactical polarity because, yes, I like tactical polarities. First of all, though, his skills, and we need to get into why these skills are something that makes Nekros bit difficult to build properly. First, we have Soul Punch. Soul Punch is a single target damage skill. It's satisfying, it has nice effects, nice sound, everything about it is awesome, except for the fact that it is a single target damage skill. Now, it will do some moderate damage and knockback to enemies close to your target, but does a flat amount of damage, which you can boost, and doesn't really do that much damage to justify you keeping it for your entire career. You can use it if you get really good at using it as a crowd control method. You can justify keeping it around for a long while, but personally I will opt to take this out in favor of other mods. Next we have Terrify. Terrify is a fear, basically. It's an AoE fear. Problem is, it's limited in the number of targets that it can affect. So that's not very fortunate for him. Also, Nekros's animations tend to be pretty long, so it's not exactly a panic button but if you anticipate a panic situations, it can do some good things for you. Next we have Desecrate. Desecrate is basically the I want more drops please button. It's somewhat tricky to use if you don't spend some time getting used to it. Most corpses tend to disappear pretty fast at first glance, but if you start using Nekros a lot and watch out for situations where you can use Desecrate on corpses, then you can learn exactly when you need to cast Desecrate for maximum effect. Also, it has a decent range, so you don't need to cast it on each corpse individually, because that would be just horrible. You cast it and it takes effect on every corpse in your range. It has a chance to create health orbs from corpses of enemies, and it also has a chance of making them drop from their drop table again, which is very useful in survival missions where you can make enemies drop extra survival bundles, or in general because you have an extra chance, not exactly double chance, but a good extra chance of making enemies drop a mod that you might be looking for. Also, obviously, the primary use is life orbs, which are always good for you and your team, and frequent drops include ammo, so that's also a good thing. Desecrate is a skill that I think is actually very useful. It might not seem like that at first glance, but I think it's actually very useful, and in some ways it makes the Warframe, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Next we have Shadows of the Dead, which is what makes this a Necromancer Warframe, more or less, the ultimate. And the way Shadows of the Dead works is you need to kill enemies, which go into a sort of buffer of last killed enemies that has a maximum of 20 enemies stored. And when you use Shadows of the Dead, you take enemies out of that buffer and spawn them as shadows of their former selves. It's an interesting skill, certainly, because it creates minions for you. But a frequent argument is that Terrify and Shadows of the Dead combined are inferior to Nyx's 1 Chaos skill. And I can tell you that I am a big Nyx fan. Nyx is my favorite Warframe in the game. I don't play her as much as I should because I think she is very powerful. Basically, when I want to just demolish something, I pick up Nyx. Now, Terrify and Shadows of the Dead, I was saying, are arguably inferior to Nyx's 1 Chaos skill, and I'm not gonna try to excuse that. They are inferior to Nyx's 1 Chaos skill. Which means that half of Nekros's skill choice list is subpar compared to another Warframe. Soul Punch does not scale well at high levels. Desecrate is interesting. So, what does that mean? Does it mean Nekros sucks? Not necessarily. It does mean, however, like I was saying, that he isn't top tier. Various Warframes have various different uses, they excel at different things. Some Warframes, like Nekros, do not excel so much as they present a unique combination of skills. So, that being said, why is Nekros tough to build? Well, we're gonna get into that in detail. First, we're gonna slot Energy Siphon, because he needs energy. He really needs energy. Then we want power focus because it amplifies a lot of his skills, right? So we need focus. We will also put in blind rage because those are the two mods that amplify power strength. So what will this do for you? It will amplify the number of targets affected by Terrify, amplify the damage of Soul Punch, and amplify the number of shadows resurrected by Shadows of the Dead. Sounds good so far, right? Meh. Blind Rage has a downside because it reduces power efficiency. At the level that I have it now, you can still use Shadows of the Dead. If you max it, you won't be able to use Shadows of the Dead with Nekros because he doesn't have enough energy. So, yeah, we need power efficiency really bad right now, don't we? So we're gonna get Fleeting Expertise. Fleeting Expertise, awesome power efficiency. Let's slot it here. We're gonna get Streamline as well because we need all the power efficiency we can get in this entire world. Streamline, fantastic. So that's 60 plus 30, that's 90. Minus 45, that's 45% reduction. So that should give you pretty good efficiency, right? Yeah, well, Fleeting Expertise reduces the power duration. What does that affect? Well, it doesn't affect Soul Punch, doesn't affect Desecrate, it affects Terrify. Targets are feared for less duration. We don't like that. And Shadows of the Dead, the shadows, are alive, undead, if you will, for a smaller duration. So we don't like that either. We fixed this, but now we have this problem. So now we need extra power duration. Time to slot Narrow-Minded. And we're gonna slot Continuity somewhere. Because power duration, right? So we have okay power efficiency at 45% reduction. We have power duration that compensates the downside of Fleeting Expertise. More than compensates, which is pretty nice, I think. But now we kind of stuck ourselves in the foot by reducing power range. What does that affect? Soul Punch to a lesser extent because it has pretty good range. Terrify to a pretty big extent because you want that coverage and you're not gonna get it now. You're just not gonna get it. And Desecrate as well because you need the range to desecrate a lot of corpses easily instead of having to recast on every clump of enemies. Shadows of the Dead is not affected by range. The shadows just spawn wherever around you, it doesn't really matter. But we want Terrify, we want Desecrate. Problem. We need range now. So, if we were to take out a mod, we would probably take out Soul Punch. Sorry, Soul Punch, you're a great skill, but we need to get rid of you. And this is where it becomes obvious that I didn't commit to this line of thought with Nekros. Because I don't have the amount of mod points, obviously, to slot Stretch in there. What would we get with Stretch in there? With Stretch, we would partially compensate Narrow-Minded. We would, with the combo of Narrow-Minded and Continuity, more than compensate Fleeting Expertise. And with those, we would have more than compensated Blind Range and Focus. It sounds like a good plan, doesn't it? Because I like squishy casters and why not boost Nekros to his maximum potential as a caster? Well, A few reasons, actually. First of all is Shadows of the Dead. Shadows of the Dead only stores the 20 last enemies you've killed in that buffer from which you can take out enemies and summon shadows. So with maxed out Blind Rage and Focus, you would be summoning 16 killed enemies at a time. That means your buffer will only have an extra 4. Why is that a problem? It's not really a problem. You get a lot of power out of it. It's awesome. But maybe you won't have enough time to refresh the buffer. But Rexer, you should be killing lots and lots of fucking enemies. I mean, damn. You're a pretty bad player if you don't kill that many enemies in the duration it takes Shadows of the Dead to expire. Well, yes and no. You have Terrify and you have Desecrate. You're gonna have to use Desecrate on enemy corpses to get something from it. You're gonna use Terrify on stuff that you need to get away from objectives or yourself. And you're gonna have 3 teammates which aren't gonna sit there and just do nothing. They're gonna kill people. And you might be surprised that you won't have that many targets left for yourself. In some situations you're gonna make it. It's not a problem. If you have good weapons like Despair, which I favor, you're gonna make it. You're gonna get those 12 extra kills in the duration that it takes Shadows of the Dead to expire. You might even get the energy back that you need to cast it, even though we're not that efficient right now. And we are actually casting Desecrate and Terrify at the same time with an energy pool that is kind of crap. And in a good best case scenario, you're gonna get enough kills for Shadows of the Dead, which doesn't happen all the time, though. So if you want to build it around power strength, no problem. Build it around power strength, but it's a best case scenario that I don't think comes up that often. And to be honest with you, I don't think you actually need 16 summoned shadows. Shadows are obviously copies of the enemies that you killed yourself, so they're on par with whoever they're facing. 16 is overkill, I think. And not only that, but getting rid of this thing, Blind Rage, is gonna get rid of one big problem that we have right now, which is Nekros's small energy pool and bad power efficiency even with these 2 slotted. What does that mean? It means that instead of 16 shadows summoned with this maxed out, you're gonna get 9 shadows. And you're gonna get, instead of, I believe it was 26 or 27 feared targets with Terrify, you're gonna get only 15. It sounds like a big sacrifice, and it is. It truly is. But Nekros needs the power efficiency for one thing, and I don't think he needs to boost Terrify and Shadows of the Dead that much. I think it's counterproductive. I think it's inefficient in the sense that you won't be using, you won't be hitting that many targets with Terrify in the first place, and you won't be able to keep up with the massive requirements of fresh souls for Shadows of the Dead. So, we're gonna get rid of this. I'm gonna put this in here. So, where does that leave us? It leaves us in a pretty decent place, I think. Focus will still boost Terrify and Shadows of the Dead. Like I said, 9 shadows instead of 7, and 15 terrified instead of 12. It's a pretty small boost, but why not have it? It doesn't have a downside, so why not? The next thing we should address is that since we are not compensating for Blind Rage now, Fleeting Expertise and Streamline give you a total of 90% power efficiency, and the cap is 75%. So this mod is a little bit wasted. So we're gonna have to fix that. How? We're gonna fix it with an under-leveled Fleeting Expertise. Personally, I chose to only level Fleeting Expertise 3 times. That gives you a power efficiency of plus 40% and minus 40% power duration in exchange. That will give you a total of 70% power efficiency. Upping Fleeting Expertise to get the cap of 75% power efficiency would also mean that you will deduce 10% power duration. And I think 70% is sufficient for Nekros. You want to spam Desecrate if you want to get something out of it. Mods, life orbs, energy orbs. Desecrate can actually produce energy orbs, which will in some cases compensate the cast of costing or even put you ahead. And you're gonna use Terrify once in a while. It has a cooldown dependent on enemies affected, like Nyx's Chaos. And Shadows of the Dead has a cooldown because you can't recast it until your shadows die. So they won't be taking too much energy, but they are high energy cost skills to begin with. So you want power efficiency. We're gonna get power efficiency because Nekros needs power efficiency. I don't know if I've stressed that enough. I think I have. 150 power max is pretty weak for a Warframe that relies on casting these things that are high cost. So that leaves us in a good place for power efficiency. It leaves us in an okay place for power strength. But you still suffer for the power duration problem. Are we gonna leave Narrow-Minded in? I think we can leave Narrow-Minded in. It compensates the power duration decrease from Fleeting Expertise by nearly double, so it actually gives you a boost still. You have a problem with power range, though. So we're gonna do what we wanted to do in the first place, and slot stretch. We're gonna slot stretch right here. For now, at least. Is this a good place for Nekros? It certainly looks like it, but we can tweak it a little bit more. Continuity gives a 30% power duration bonus, but there is another mod that is Constitution, and it gives a little bit of extra. It will give you 28% power duration, so it's a 2% hit, not very big, and 40% knockdown recovery, which in the case of Nekros is pretty good to have because A, it's a mod that has more benefits in total, and B, Nekros is not a Warframe that can really stand toe-to-toe with much anyone. So if he gets knocked down, he wants to get up and get the hell out of there, because if not, he's gonna get melted. And that's the unfortunate truth. Is this a good place for Nekros? Well, we're almost there. We're gonna move Stretch over here, move Constitution over here, and we have the defensive slot. Now you already know what's coming, probably. Nekros creates a lot of life orbs through Desecrate, and you might think that boosting his shields is a better idea because, hey, shields regenerate. But Nekros's base shields are pretty crappy. His base health is only slightly less crappy than his base shields, but slightly less crappy is still good. So we're gonna get Vitality. Vitality is gonna up his health, and because you're using Desecrate, I hope you are, right? You better be. you can actually get combat regeneration in a way, because you're flying around trying to use Desecrate on big clumps of enemies that you killed, your allies killed, or your Shadows of the Dead softened up considerably and then they were killed by someone else. And you're gonna get possibly even 3, 4, 5 health orbs popping up at the same time, which, if you are using Carrier, for example, which is my favorite Sentinel, will equate to combat regeneration, because it picks up the life orbs, it immediately feeds them to you, and voila, combat regenerating health as you're getting shot at. Pretty awesome. You could slot redirection if you wanted to. It's an argument that you could make. I wouldn't hold it against you. But it would be unfortunate to sacrifice a little bit of extra possible effective health point buffer just because redirection kinda regenerates on its own. You are gonna have a lot of health orbs. A lot of health orbs. Life orbs, pardon me. Same thing. So it's there's no reason why to compromise for redirection when you could be using Vitality for a bigger boost of effective health points and less mod energy cost, actually. So you're gonna need 1 extra point to boost Narrow-Minded to max, and 1 extra point to boost Vitality to max, which leaves this build at 0 when you have everything that you're supposed to have maxed out. Fleeting Expertise. Oh, wait a minute. Whoops, at 2. Yeah. So Fleeting Expertise and Streamline are gonna make you able to cast any skill you want at any time you want. If you go for 75%, it actually makes a difference over 70%. You're gonna be able to cast them even more. It's gonna feel like you have unlimited energy. So you can invest in that if you want the 10% power duration hit. There's no problem. But what we have here is a build that has good duration on Terrify, good duration on Shadows of the Dead, a few extra Shadows of the Dead and Terrify, a compensated range for the duration. So Desecrate will still have a good range, Terrify will have a decent range. I've never been satisfied with Terrify range. Shadows of the Dead isn't affected. It has some survivability in the form of Vitality and health orbs that you get from Desecrate. And it does not make a wonderful Warframe. I'm sad to say. Like I've been stressing, Nekros is not a top tier pick, at least not for me, and I wouldn't encourage you to constrain yourself to try and make Nekros a top tier pick. There are other better Warframes. This is not to say that I am trying to ward you against using Nekros. Nekros is fun. A lot of these mods that I've been slotting compensate for problems in Nekros. Fleeting Expertise Streamline compensate for his low energy pool. Vitality compensates for his bad starting stats in health and shields. Focus compensates for the fact that Terrify has a target limit compared to Nexus Chaos, and Shadows of the Dead is actually boosted. Woohoo! And Narrow-Minded and Constitution compensate for the fact that you would have to be using these skills, which are high cost, more often. So it is all an exercise of compensating for deficiencies. Stretch obviously compensating for Narrow-Minded. Nekros starts out as a broken Warframe. A broken god of death, if you will. A perfect interpretation of necromancer at death's door, defying death. And it is sort of poetic and satisfying in a way, that you can take him from there and make a Warframe that is usable and enjoyable to play from the situation he was in prior. This is pretty much it though for what I've been able to do with Nekros. I personally use him for amplifying my drops in normal missions, in not in high level missions, but in normal missions, in run-throughs of exterminate, capture and what have you. He is decent at defense. Decent, I say. You might think that Shadows of the Dead is awesome and Terrify is awesome to use in a defensive mission, and to some extent you are right, but you will end up heavily riding the coattails of your teammates if you don't bring another Warframe, like Nyx or Nova even. She has crowd control in the form of molecular prime slowing targets. So Nekros is a mid-level choice. He's a good mid-level choice. He's a fun mid-level choice, but don't force yourself to use him on high-level missions, on defensive waves of 30 plus. He will amplify your drops, no question about it, but unless you're confident that your teammates can pick up the slack, there's better choices for you to make, Warframe-wise. Okay, so this has been it for my Nekros build. I hope you didn't find it too critical of the Warframe. He is certainly a good-looking Warframe and a fun Warframe. I have to stress it again. I actually do have fun playing with him now that I've built him. But see the prior comments. If you've enjoyed this video or found it informative, please remember to subscribe for more. I will be making videos a little bit more often in the near future, but I will also try to make videos of different games like I originally intended. So I hope you will enjoy those as well. And Warframe wise, I will tell you now that the next Warframe that I want to build is either Rhino or the newly released Zephyr. I'm gonna have to wait a bit for Zephyr because clan research isn't done yet, and I build my Warframes the normal way of waiting 3 days. And Rhino, there have been some rumors that either Rhino or Loki might be the next Prime Warframe, which by the time I release this video might be confirmed or denied outright. So I'm gonna wait for that a bit as well. I hope you've enjoyed this build. I hope you enjoy my other builds. And I hope you enjoy Warframe, because it's a game that I have found renewed passion in by making these build videos for you guys. So, this is Rexer from the YouTube channel NotQuiteThereGaming, signing off and wishing you good game and have fun.